a lot of fans outside of the Fan Fest wearing Fever merch and Caitlin Clark jerseys and things like that. What does it mean to you to know that your team has fans, all the way out here on the East Coast?
No, I mean, it's huge, and that's the thing about generational talents.
There are literally hundreds of fans, and you can see all the way down the street. You can see this going all the way down the street, lads.
Once again, Caitlin Clark continuing to break records non-stop. What does she do now?
The WNBA haven't been seeing numbers like that, and they've been here since 1997.
If Caitlin Clark started her own league and just quit the WNBA, it'll be more viewed than WNBA. Like that's a fact.
Thousands of fans, one player. Historic numbers. Just days after Caitlin Clark pulled 2.1 million viewers against Dallas, ABC's fourth most watched WNBA game ever, she's about to do it again. This time against the Connecticut Sun, and thousands of fans are already lining up hours before tip-off at TD Garden. What should be a Sun home game has turned into another Fever takeover. Not a single Sun jersey in sight. This is what happens when one player continues to shatter every record the league has, and why every arena has become Caitlin Clark's house.
And it just shows again how important, Caitlin Clark is to the league. Not a single Sun jersey in sight. Like, what Sun jersey do they own?
Caitlin Clark continues to crush the viewership department and bring in those big ratings. This is from ESPN PR. This past Sunday, ABC aired another of its most watched WNBA games ever with the Indiana Fever's win over the Dallas Wings. It averaged 2.1 million viewers and peaked at 2.5 million viewers. WNBA on ESPN is up 7% from last season, man.
Every game is a home game. The league owes her money at this point.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. In 2024, 24 WNBA events topped 1 million viewers. Want to guess how many of those featured Caitlin Clark? 21. That's right, all but 3 million viewer games had Clark on the court. We're talking about a player who single-handedly turned a league that struggled to crack 500,000 viewers into appointment television. The WNBA draft alone pulled 2.45 million viewers when Clark was selected first overall back in 2024. That's 4 times the previous record. 4 times. To put that in perspective, that draft had more viewers than some NBA playoff games.
Now let's look at the viewership, right? So I'm looking at here. So before the WNBA, before Caitlin arrived, the WNBA averaged around 300,000 to 400,000 viewers per game on national television, right? 300,000 to 400,000 viewership, right?
That's great.
The 2023 season, they said they saw an average of 367,000 viewers, right? When Caitlin Clark came, her presence, viewership has increased with some games drawing over 1 million viewers, right? Caitlin Clark's WNBA draft for her drew 2.45 million viewers. That's crazy. So that means these people and what she did in college and bringing them all to the WNBA scale, people are watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark.
The league went from being an afterthought to must-watch TV overnight, and it all centered around one player from Iowa. But those Dallas Wings numbers we mentioned, that 2.1 million average with a peak of 2.5 million, that wasn't even her best performance. Her rookie season finale against the Las Vegas Aces became cable's most viewed WNBA game ever. The player who wasn't supposed to be ready for the professional level was already rewriting the record books before her first season even ended. The craziest part? These aren't flukes or one-off events.
You see every time the girl is on national TV, she's shattering her own. She's not even shattering viewership records. She can only break her own records at this point. She's already broken everybody else's when it comes to this viewership thing.
69% versus last year's WNBA on ABC regular season average. This season to date, the WNBA across ESPN platforms are up 7% from last season. What's that number when we get rid of the Caitlin Clark games on ABC or ESPN? Because if her games are always better than what they were last season, right? Where does that balance out in terms of the actual growth that the league is seeing that isn't Caitlin Clark reliant?
Every single time Clark steps on a court, the numbers explode. ESPN executives are probably having the best year of their careers thanks to one 23-year-old from Iowa. But that's just the beginning of this story. If these numbers are blowing your mind like they did mine, smash that like button and drop Clark Effect in the comments, because what we're witnessing is literally reshaping an entire sport. And trust me, the story gets even crazier from here. Remember when WNBA games were played in front of half-empty arenas? Those days are gone. More than 400,000 people attended WNBA games in May alone, with over half being sellouts. That's unprecedented territory for a league that used to struggle with attendance.
The viewership for the WNBA this year is going to be off the charts. It's going to be really, really good. And the NCAA women's game next year is going to be through the roof, because everybody is going to want to see what these NIL deals, how they work out, how they make out. But right now with the WNBA, everybody is ajar. Everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen with Caitlin Clark.
TD Garden isn't just any venue either. This is the same arena where the Celtics won championships, where legends were made. For the second year in a row, the Connecticut Sun sold out this historic venue. But here's what makes it truly insane. This isn't even the Sun's home arena. They're playing in Boston because they know Clark will pack the house.
An economist at Indiana University Columbus calculated that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $36 million in economic impact to the city of Indianapolis, and that she is responsible for 27% of the entire WNBA's economic activity for this past season, including attendance, merchandise sales, and television. One player in a big league responsible for 27% of the economic impact and economic activity for the WNBA.
The first ever WNBA regular season game in Boston drew 19,156 fans. That's a complete sellout in one of the most prestigious arenas in professional sports. These aren't just basketball fans either. These are people who never watched women's basketball before Clark showed up. Families driving hours just to see her play. Kids wearing Fever jerseys in a city that's never had a WNBA team. But what happened outside TD Garden tells the real story. Fans lined up hours before tip-off, creating scenes that looked more like a concert than a basketball game. The energy was electric, the anticipation palpable. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's become a cultural phenomenon.
When we look back on this, Caitlin Clark will be for the WNBA what Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were for the NBA. If this thing ever becomes as big as some people think it can become, she will be the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. You needed two of them to take the NBA to another level. You needed Magic and Larry. She doesn't need anybody.
Here's where things get really wild. The Connecticut Sun are technically the home team tonight, but you wouldn't know it from the crowd. Not a single Sun jersey in sight, according to witnesses on the scene. Instead, the arena is flooded with Fever, Orange, and Clark jerseys. The home court advantage has completely flipped. This isn't an isolated incident either. Every road game has become a home game for the Indiana Fever. Phoenix, Las Vegas, New York, it doesn't matter where they play. The crowd show up wearing Clark's number, chanting her name, turning opposing arenas into hostile environments for the actual home teams. Think about how crazy that is for a second-year player. Most players need years to build that kind of following. Clark did it before she even played her first professional game. The anticipation was so intense that her college games were pulling better ratings than WNBA playoffs. Now she's brought that energy to the professional level. The league has never seen anything like this. Veterans who've been grinding for years suddenly find themselves playing in front of crowds that couldn't care less about them. It's all about Clark. Some players embrace it, understanding she's lifting the entire league. Others? Well, let's just say there's been some tension behind the scenes. Here's what nobody wants to talk about, but everyone knows. The WNBA has become completely dependent on one player. When Clark was eliminated from the playoffs, viewership dropped dramatically. The league went from record-breaking numbers to back to reality real quick. That 2.5 million viewer game we mentioned? The most watched WNBA game ever on cable. But here's the kicker. The very next playoff game without Clark drew less than half that number. The drop-off was steep and immediate. It exposed just how much the league's newfound success hinged on one 23-year-old. This creates a massive problem for the WNBA. What happens when Clark has an off night? What happens if she gets injured? What happens when she eventually retires? The league has put all its eggs in one basket, and while that basket is currently made of gold, it's still incredibly risky. The business side of this is even more revealing. Merchandising, ticket sales, TV deals, everything revolves around Clark's presence. Teams are scheduling their biggest promotional nights around fever visits. Arena operators are adding extra security and concessions because they know Clark games will be packed. One player has literally transformed an entire league's business model. But here's what's really messed up. She's still making relatively modest money while generating tens of millions in revenue. The collective bargaining agreement discussions mentioned in insider reports suggest the league knows they need to find a way to compensate their biggest stars properly. She's worth more to the WNBA than most franchise players are to NBA teams. Here's something that'll shock you. Clark's individual performance doesn't even matter anymore. At TD Garden, she struggled shooting, going just 2 of 5 by halftime. She finished the game 4 of 14 from the field. In most cases, that would be considered a disappointing performance. But the crowd didn't care. They cheered every pass, every defensive play, every time she touched the ball. The Fever won 85-77, and Clark's shooting percentage was irrelevant to the 19,000 fans who showed up just to see her play. This is what separates superstars from regular players. Michael Jordan had bad shooting nights. LeBron James has bad shooting nights, but people still show up to watch greatness, regardless of whether the shots are falling. Clark has reached that level of stardom where her presence alone is worth the price of admission. The stats tell a different story, though. While her shooting has been inconsistent since returning from injury, everything else has been elite level. Her court vision, her leadership, her ability to make teammates better, these are the qualities that make her special. The shooting will come around, but the impact goes far beyond putting the ball in the basket. What's fascinating is how this parallels other sports legends. Tiger Woods could miss the cut, but tournaments still saw huge spikes in viewership when he played. Clark has that same magnetic pull. She's transcended the sport itself and become a cultural icon. The TD Garden game reignited something that's been brewing for years. Boston wants a WNBA team. The city has one of the most passionate sports cultures in America, and seeing nearly 20,000 fans pack TD Garden for a game featuring 2 teams from other cities sent a clear message. The energy in that arena was unlike anything the WNBA had seen in Boston before. This wasn't just curiosity about Clark. This was genuine excitement about women's professional basketball. The crowd was engaged, knowledgeable, and loud. They created an atmosphere that rivaled any NBA game. City officials have been pushing for a Boston-based WNBA expansion team for years. The success of this game, combined with last year's sellout, provides concrete evidence that the market exists. You can't fake 19,000 people showing up and creating that kind of energy. The timing couldn't be better either. The WNBA is in expansion mode, looking to capitalize on its newfound popularity. A Boston team would instantly become one of the league's most valuable franchises. The city has the sports infrastructure, the fan base, and the corporate support to make it work. But here's the real kicker. Most of those fans showed up because of Clark. What happens when she retires? Can Boston sustain a WNBA team based on local interest alone? That's the million-dollar question that expansion committees are probably asking right now. Clark's impact extends far beyond the WNBA. She's become the face of women's professional sports in America. Young girls are picking up basketballs because of her. Youth league registrations are spiking. College programs are seeing increased interest and recruitment. The business implications are staggering. Sponsors who never considered women's sports are now writing checks. Nike, Gatorade, and other major brands are investing heavily in women's basketball. The Clark effect has opened doors that seemed permanently closed just 2 years ago. But there's pressure that comes with being the face of an entire movement. Every game, every interview, every social media post is scrutinized. She's carrying the hopes and dreams of not just WNBA fans, but everyone who wants to see women's sports succeed at the highest level. The responsibility is immense for someone who just turned 23. She's handling it with remarkable grace, but the weight of expectation has to be exhausting. One bad stretch of games becomes a crisis. One controversial comment becomes a national story. That's the price of transcendent stardom. Other women's sports are watching closely too. The NWSL, women's hockey, women's soccer, they're all hoping to find their own Clark. Someone who can break through the mainstream consciousness and bring casual fans into the fold. So where does this leave the WNBA? The league is experiencing unprecedented growth, but is built on an incredibly narrow foundation. Clark has given them a window of opportunity that might not stay open forever. The question is whether they can capitalize on it properly. The smart move would be expanding while the momentum is hot. Adding teams in Boston, Toronto, Nashville, cities that have shown interest and have the infrastructure to support professional women's basketball. Strike while the iron is hot, as they say. But they also need to develop other stars. The league can't survive on Clark alone forever. Players like Angel Reese, Paige Buchers, and others need to be promoted and given platforms to build their own followings. Diversity of star power is crucial for long-term sustainability. The broadcasting deals are going to be interesting too. When the current contracts expire, the negotiating power will be completely different thanks to Clark's impact. Networks that ignored women's basketball for decades are now fighting for rights. That's leverage the WNBA has never had before. What we witnessed at TD Garden wasn't just a basketball game, it was a cultural moment. Thousands of fans lining up hours early, a complete sellout in one of America's most prestigious arenas, and viewing numbers that continue to shatter records. All because of one player who's redefining what's possible in women's sports. The 2.1 million viewers for the Dallas game, the fourth most watched WNBA game in history, was just the beginning. Every time Clark steps on the court, she's not just playing basketball, she's making history. She's proving that women's sports can draw massive audiences, generate serious revenue, and create genuine cultural moments. But here's what keeps me up at night. What happens next? The WNBA has been given a golden opportunity to establish itself as a major professional sport. They've got the attention, they've got the momentum, and they've got the star power. The question is whether they can build something sustainable beyond one transcendent player. One thing is certain though, Caitlin Clark has changed the game forever. Whether the league can keep up with her impact remains to be seen. But for now, every arena has become her house. Every game has become must-watch television, and every record seems destined to fall. The revolution is being televised, and it's wearing number 22.